Hey, we are live, Trevor, and thank you very much for joining. We are live on LinkedIn, Twitter, as well as on YouTube, my channel. And so I would request everyone who is on the call to ask questions as much as they can, because this is the expert in the go-to-market strategy area for startups. And I would like to first introduce Trevor. This guest of mine has launched 13 startups, from bringing them from 0 to 2 million ARR in over the last decade, which includes many known names. He has launched 50 startups, mentored around 200, taught thousands. And taught marketing, branding, revenue to more than even 1,000 startups in accelerators. That's a pretty impressive resume. And I must add, these accelerators were all over in Northern America and Europe. Am I correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, awesome. And he's also the founder of an agency called Crowd Tamers, which helps in new startups and their products launch. Now, before we get into the questions, Trevor, Mike, I have also failed a couple of times in my startup ideas and all that. Even before I launched it completely, I wasted around year and a half to 2 years into these development of ideas and all that. So this talk today is very personal also, because I want to share my story also with people. But I want to share a statistics here. According to SBA, the government organization, it says 627 new businesses are launched every year, and 90% of them fail. And 30,000 products are launched, 90% fail every year in the United States. I want to know from you today, why do many of these startups fail? And I think go to market strategy is one thing, and then what can we do to fix those things? Over to you,
So
Trevor.
the prime reason why a startup doesn't succeed is because the founder has an idea. Most businesses are built because you think, oh, this would be really cool. I have this pain. If I could just fix it, then I would make money because other people have this pain. The problem inevitably comes with you build a thing and you don't really yet know how to tell people about the thing you built. Now, if
Yeah.
you're familiar with the standard idea of pirate metrics, they call it, right? They teach at Y Combinator and other various startup accelerators all over the world. They tell you that this begins with it's a funnel, right? It's called pirate metric because it goes AARRR, and that's acquisition, activation, revenue, referral, and retention. And that idea, I do think, is an interesting idea. I do also think it is missing a relevant piece of information. If you think of this funnel here, I've just done on my second monitor. A buddy of mine, David Isaac,
Do
out
you
in.
want me to share that funnel?
Oh yeah, if you would please, yeah. There you go.
That's
So, buddy of mine, David Isaacs, he's in Singapore, and he and I talked about this funnel a bunch. And one thing he proposed, I think, is a very good point, is you need to add awareness in the top of this. And this is where a lot of founders fall apart. Is they think all about, oh, if I get enough people, my website will make me business. But how do you drive that awareness, that beginning discussion of, oh, I want your thing? And more importantly, who do you have awareness with? Who do you drive awareness to? They say the customer is always right, and there's a certain amount of truth to that, but pick your customer. So many founders, they say, who's my potential audience? Everybody, right? Then you're trying to boil the ocean, and you can't. I mean, arguably, as a human species, we have figured out how to, but it's not easy for an individual to. And what you want to figure out is, what is the tiniest audience I can launch to, and how can I be confident that this thing I'm going to launch is actually going to be relevant for them. And so answering that well and early is crucial to launching successfully. And that funnel that I showed you, everyone who launches at the beginning, it's always broken. It's the definition of marketing is how do I figure out where it is most broken and fix that part first.
So what I understand is not defining the target customer, not defining the target market, and understanding the actual pain. Now, some people talk about their pain in a very superficial manner, and or maybe in my case, what happened was I thought this is the pain. And I thought customers also have the same pain because as an immigrant, I had a certain pain. And as an immigrant in Canada and US, I had certain pains. And I thought these people also have the similar pain and they also see the same thing. And I wanted to be a Tony Robbins of immigrants at that time. And I thought, what should I do, to make that? But whereas on the other side, the customers or my prospective customers did not care about those things. They only cared about one thing, that was visa. How do I enter the United States or Canada? And I didn't have answer to that because I'm not an immigration lawyer. So those are the kind of things. And what I'm coming at it is that why it is important to define the customer and its pain point of what the customer believes is the pain point is, not what I or the founder thinks the pain point is. Am I correct? Is the
Yeah.
right thing or not?
So inevitably, you build a thing because you think the thing is cool and you want to talk about the thing, right? And you say, I built this, look how awesome it is. And people, as you've noted, they don't care about the thing, right? If you're saying, as an immigrant, if you do all of these things, you will be successful, like Tony Robbins, right? But as an immigrant, the first thing I really have to figure out is how do I get to stay? And so their number one pain is, how do I stay? Speaking as an immigrant in Canada, in Quebec, where they are particularly hostile to your non-francophones, right? How do I stay? The answer is speak French. If anything else, sorry, please leave. We don't need you. Being able to answer that pain of what your prospect is problem aware of is the beginning of making awareness jump into acquisition. And it's worth noting, for many businesses, your prospects might not be problem aware for what you solve. Then you have to find a related problem that they are aware of and solve that for them first. Crowd tamers, I take companies that are funded to market. A whole bunch of my funnel people who have no money, right? So how do I tell them how to solve their problems so that once they're funded, they come back to me? That's my funnel.
So we have a comment from an audience, and Brandy West is saying, I will pay attention to your thing once I find out how your thing solves my problem.
Exactly. And then you have to take what you've built and relate it to a top of mind problem. Everybody has 20 problems in their head at any given moment, right? So you got to find one of them and then hook on it and pull. And it has to be a sensible journey from, if you're helping people be more successful as immigrants, you don't want to start with, here's a better way to floss your teeth. The jump is too big.
But I agree.
If being a successful immigrant requires this and this and this and this, and the first part is visa, and you don't really want to sell that part because it's a very fungible good. A bunch of people solve this. But if you get them here, then you can bring them down the journey. That works really well. One of my top performing funnels for my business, I give away a pack of ad templates for Facebook ads. And I advertise to give them away, which is stupid because I'm not making any money. I'm spending money to get you to download a free thing. And worse yet, I'm spending money on Facebook likes, which is probably the dumbest thing you can throw your money away on because Facebook likes are worthless. But everybody who likes my ad on Facebook instantly gets a DM from me. Hey, here's the link to the ad pack. And by the way, here's the link to the book that tells you how to use the ad pack. It's normally $8.50. I'll give it to you for $4.25. And already now, enough people buy the book. They came for the free thing. They buy the book. I'm already almost at break even. And then everybody who's joining this, right? I sell my course. I sell my consulting services. I sell fractional work. I've got a funnel put together that starts with what's your immediate problem? I need to make good ads. Now that I've got this ad template. Wait, how do I make them work? Funny thing, I have the next step for you, and that's what you have to solve.
Yeah. So next time, so what from next points onwards, I will request you to give examples from your experience from a B2B SaaS products and all that,
Sure.
because that's the main audience I think we have, and other products also. So another thing, you talked about product messaging, I think, and you talked about how the value, and I would like to go deeper into how to create the value proposition. Do you think that the value proposition and the product messaging is also one of the reasons why go to markets fail, or do you want to talk about something else?
So that is a big part of why it works. And I'll give you an example from a B2B SaaS startup. Back when I was CMO at Unito. Unito is a startup. I'm actually wearing their shirt today, which is why I thought of them. They're a startup. They're kind of like Zapier. They integrate different tools together, but they're only for task management software. So Trello, Jira, Asana, like the software you use to manage your work. And one of their initial thoughts as I come on board as their very first non-tech hire was we just tell people we synchronize your work tools together, and they want that. And yes, sometimes, but largely no. The problem you're really solving is how to work with that team over there. Right? I'm the marketing team. We use Asana because it's pretty. I have to work with the development team because there's a feature we're going to launch. They use GitHub because that's where they live. How do we track the work we're doing? We can't. So the problem we were solving wasn't sync your work tools together. It was connect your company together, make your departments collaborate better. That's the problem, is a lot of wasted effort. Like we would have people take out their personal credit cards and put $10 a month on their own credit card because it made their life so much better as a PM. They knew they wouldn't get permission from their boss for the credit card off, but they would spend $10 a month because it improved their quality of life, right? Like when you got that level of, once they see it, they go, oh, wow, it makes my job better. Cool. But you bring the right people into the funnel. You bring people who go, I'm stuck working between these two teams and it's awful. We solved it for you. Excellent, right? What is it you can do for your B2B SaaS product where when you bring somebody into the funnel, you brought them on the real problem they want to solve, right? I have to work with these two teams and they don't get along. And suddenly you make it where they go, now this is much better, right? I have to do expense tracking and it's awful. And this is better. Whatever the pain is they have, solve the pain. Not, hey, we digitize receipts. I don't care. I made expense tracking better. I reduced your time to make reports every month by 4 hours. Phenomenal. I'm on board, right? That's the messaging then on this is you have to test several different ways to talk about it. If you have a work management synchronization app, how do you tell people what you do? And part of what we learned as we built many different niches over time is for different niches, you have different things you must say. One of the biggest use cases for Unito ended up being people who had Trello and they had 2 different Trello boards they wanted to connect. There's no way to do it in Trello. In Asana, you can do it without using a third tool. With Trello, you cannot. So we tell Trello users, this is how you make a roll-up of all of your boards in one place. We wouldn't say that to anybody else in the world, but for them, it works really, really well and brings in hundreds, thousands, I don't know how many now, of people every month to check out this tool. So for a given niche, how you talk about what you do is different, and you always want to solve the root problem, not what you actually built.
Thank you. What else would you like to say about the broken funnels, and how do you fix that? And then I'll ask you another question I have in mind.
Okay, really common is, and if we think about, I'll come back to my visual aid here. If we think about this classic kind of pirate metrics funnel with the extra A added, right? If you'd share the screen again, thank you. Yeah. So there's these gaps, right? These gaps where you lose people from stage to stage. And one of the things you really have to get good at if you're going to validate a market idea, figure out where your funnel is broken, and fix it to earn more money is you've got to figure out how to instrument properly for these stages. So having good Google Analytics in not just your brochure or website, but in your app, being able to see after somebody clicks the big green sign up button on my website, what happens after? So many people, even very advanced companies in their Series B, Series C round of funding, right? Marketing team of 5, 10 people, 15 people. After you click the big green sign up button, no one knows what happens. It's all gone.
Mhm.
And then I can tell you, hey, I brought you this many signups, which gets you all the way up to acquisition. But I can't tell you how many activated, how many tried the product, how many actually paid, how many converted to revenue. If you don't have the full picture, you cannot address the biggest problems in your product. So it's not just a matter of messaging fit, although it's important to consider onboarding your customers, right? Activating them, which you see down here in the funnel, it starts up here.
Yeah.
Because the thing you told me you do in the ad that I saw better be what I end up seeing when I onboard. And if it's not, then no one's going to activate. So you need to have a sensible path through you can follow. And you have to think about, if I'm running a campaign just on one particular feature, I better have a landing page just for that feature. And I better have special onboarding just for that feature. Otherwise, all the effort I've done to go from awareness to acquisition is going to be lost on activation and revenue.
Yeah. One more thing which I wanted to talk is that how do you think the pricing work on this? So because I'm a partner in a company which is exclusively into pricing strategy firm, and we help a lot of a few funded startups and B2B startups, as well as we also help very many established companies into pricing, from customer segmentations to product positioning and value positioning, as well as pricing strategy. What do you think pricing works in this, and how do you find from your experience?
So pricing is both a moving target that's impossible to lock down forever, and also something it's really easy to obsess over, particularly too early. If I'm not seeing dozens or more of active, maybe going to buy discussion, whether it's POG or SOG, whichever way, a month, pricing experimentation won't teach me a lot because I don't have enough happening in the bottom of my funnel to know. Broadly speaking, it's good to have the introductory offer that you don't want people to hang out on, the middle offer that is going to be what you expect to earn most of your money on, and then some upsells once you've got somebody hooked and they're really in the retention phase of your business, a way to sell them up into more and more value. What those price points look like, they vary hugely, right? One of my bigger clients from last year, they were B2C, but they were B2C with a $9,000 average customer value, which on the consumer side of things is ludicrous, right? But if you were to say at the beginning of a discussion, hey, I'm B2C, I want to charge $9,000 per customer, everyone would say, don't do that. No one's going to spend the money. What are you doing? And through iteration and through heavy reliance on data, they work their pricing up to find that's about the highest they can charge for what they do. Okay, now you've got that offer works well for you, but I would not broadly tell any B2C client of mine, yeah, start at $1,000 and work your ways up, right? That's ludicrous. So it's hard to give specific pricing advice because every business is different.
Okay, and I just wanted to share for the audience and for yourself how we do it is that we even go in for a research-based and market research and all that, and with our AI, we are able to predict the right pricing. But this is not the forum for that. I have done a lot of LinkedIn lives on that. I want to ask you, when I saw your funnel, there is one funnel, one step for retention customer. So I know awareness is important, acquisition is important, and you're looking at churning and activation, revenue, all of them are important. But what about retention? and it's also, I want to, while you're talking about retention, I want you to talk about, you know, my eyes opened when I saw that the cost of acquisition in the recent years and with the tech meltdown has happened so much. Like I'll give you an example of Salesforce. Salesforce customer acquisition, they used to recover that in 2 years time before, 2 years time from the customer, and now it is taking 8 to 10 years. Now I want to know how customer retention is important, and how can we, so maybe two questions, how we can reduce the customer acquisition costs, because if it is 10 years or 8 years or 7 years to just recover this, that's a
So
difficult
that's
thing
pretty
to do.
ludicrous. I'd
Yeah,
argue most of us cannot run a business expecting to see customer ROAS in 7 years, right? You can't.
yeah,
That's not going to work. Um, Retention is so in the pirate metrics, revenue, referral, and retention, they are all shown as linear, but they're not really. They are more kind of lumped together in that you can frequently get referral before you get revenue. You can frequently get retention that then churns and then comes back and then churns again and then comes back. Like there's a number of ways this can work, right? So it is not at the bottom of the funnel quite as neat and tidy as the pirate metrics makes it look. That said, a big part of retention, getting that second month at least in a B2B SaaS business, is activation into onboarding, right? So you get the money from them and then they actually are able to do the thing they wanted to do. And that again comes all the way back to awareness. What did you tell them you were going to do? And how easy did you make it to do the thing they wanted to do when they signed up?
yeah,
The more tightly you align all of that together, the higher likelihood you'll get repeat business from somebody, because they will go, excellent, I was able to set this up. It did what I wanted it to. And then I will pay again next month for it to keep doing that. If it's hard, if you bombard them with stuff they don't want to see during onboarding, whatever, if you make it difficult to achieve their goal, you might get the first month, but you'll be much less likely to get the second. So building a whole theory around what is the magic minute, right? You get 60 seconds in onboarding, ideally, maybe more sometimes, to really have somebody figure out if you're going to solve the problem that they need solved. There are, of course, some examples of edge cases. Superhuman's a good one. They do a 30-minute onboarding live with every single customer. That then, one, forces behavior shift, begins to train folks on how to use Superhuman. Their retention's really high for folks who show up on those calls. Thinking of how you can align your business practice around that retention, it is usually, I think it's 300% more effective to retain a customer than it is to find a new one.
yeah. And that gives us a chance to also do business profitably. I want to ask you another question. How important is how important is the quality of the people, like salespeople and all that, in the entire process which you have talked about? I think most of the things which you have worked on have been a B2B or B2C kind of companies, and they tend to do a lot of advertising and SEO and ad strategy and all that. What can a good employee or a salesperson or other people do in this scenario? How important is this to helping you do the go to market and not breaking the, say, a funnel?
So it is easy to say that a good salesperson makes or breaks the performance of, particularly in the B2B space, your company. And there's some amount of truth to it. But in my experience, what actually makes or breaks the revenue side of a company, if it has sales led, is the quality of the training of that salesperson. Even a mediocre salesperson can do a very good job if well supported by good onboarding, a good sales deck, and a sensible lead system into their SQL metrics, right?
Mhm.
It is very common, particularly early days in a startup, to hire your first salesperson, and the founder does, they sit in on a couple calls. They say, you should have done this and this and this different. And they go, great, it's been a month, you're on your own, good luck. And you cannot have success with that. Like, that's impossible. As the founder for my company, I close probably 20-30% of the sales calls I get into, right? As the founder, somebody with 23 years of experience in marketing, where if a customer asks me anything, I know an answer. If I told a salesperson, like 25-year-old salesperson doesn't really know marketing, had them sit on some calls with me and then throw them into the deep end, they'd fail. They'd close 5%, 1%, right? They might be a really good salesperson, but they lack domain expertise and they weren't trained enough to succeed. So people talk about the product-led folks, engineering folks, say the salespeople promise stuff that isn't there to close a deal. And I mean, sure, maybe sometimes. More frequently, they promised what they thought the product did based off of their knowledge, right? The better training you have on product, the better job they'll do of selling people on what the product does. And then when you close deals, they'll stick around longer. You'll retain them because they were made a promise by the salesperson and you delivered. That gap there, the same thing has to happen if you're product-led growth, right? Either way, whether it's the salesperson conducting the sale along or the product conducting the sale along, you need very good instrumentation for either the salesperson or the customer to figure out what it is they're supposed to be doing and how to successfully make it happen.
Another question. We are doing everything right, from awareness, acquisition, revenue, customer retention, and then ChatGPT kind of a company comes along and pulls the rug out of your feet. What do you think a founder or somebody should do? Just fold, or fight back, or pivot, or partner? What do you think a person should do? Why I'm saying that is, I was reading a news about how Chegg, which is a homework kind of a company my daughter was using all the time in university and high school, and now ChatGPT comes along and Chegg's shares drop. Terrible, situation they have.
Yeah.
And so maybe there are tens of other companies like that.
There's a bunch, right? Anybody who does entry-level SEO work, those companies don't exist anymore. Why? I'm doing for a client of mine on a little project. I'm spinning up 300 web pages in a week, right? All written by ChatGPT with some cleanup so it will pass AI detection filters. And it's costing me, I think, 0.9 cents per page, right? Why would I hire a content farm anymore? There's no point. So that business is gone. Okay, so you got a couple options. One is you can say, if you're Cheggs or a content farm, we're going to produce something that ChatGPT can't. We'll pivot. We'll move video, right? Or we'll be able to say, this content made by ChatGPT it hallucinates, it has errors, this and this and this is all wrong, and we don't do that, right? You can position yourself in opposition to them and saying we're better quality. And the last possibility is to say, all right, I've got business flow coming in. I'm going to lay off 85% of my staff, and we're all going to be AI, copy paste hands now instead. Either of these is possible. Any of these is possible. What you have to figure out at the moment where a depth charge explodes in your business's area is what is the best course for you and the best part of your company that you can make to survive what's happening now. I had last month basically $40,000 in monthly revenue either not agree to finish the contract they've started or just say, never mind, our marketing budget's quit and we're walking away, right? That was pretty traumatic for my company because I don't have enough of a margin to just swallow $40,000 a month. So, okay, I can either say, well, recession's coming, I guess I'll get a job. Go work for somebody in a, senior VP marketing role for a couple years and then come back when the market's better, which doesn't feel like the right thing for me to do in general. Or I can say, what do I offer instead? How do I pivot my acquisition strategy? How do I pivot my marketing message? How do I pivot what I do as a business to meet the new changes in the market? And the same is going to be true for anybody listening to this call, right? there will be technology that moves in and edges you out. The narrower your niche, the hardier you are. Because if you're in this little space, I'll give an example of a B2B SaaS. A buddy of mine, Tom over at xray.tech, he wrote a couple different tools around meeting transcription and note taking. And he said to me, Trevor, I don't know who this is for. How do we launch it? And I said, well, let's figure it out. Let's launch a few different companies. And so we took meeting transcription and note taking, which is not new tech. A lot of people have made this same thing. Even some of them are quite well funded. And we said, hey, it's for this specific niche, for legal, for students, for nonprofit, and for podcasters. But each of these launch in these little niches. And in the legal tech space, we had tremendous response because we were making some slight changes to how we use AI in our app. And we're SOC 2 compliant, HIPAA compliant, all of these things, which Otter, MeetGeek, Fireflies, any of these folks aren't. And so being able to say, hey, this is secure and running only in your own instance matters usually to them. It's also true for students, but they don't care about that, right? They don't care if it's SOC 2 compliant. They just want better class notes. So by diving into this little niche where there's a bunch of players and they're all fighting, paying super high CPMs to win business, we're doing sales-led in this little space with maybe 500 companies, but any of them, if they close, will be worth 50 to 200K a month. Okay.
Yeah.
You go find a little niche where you're protected and go chase that instead.
Awesome. Anything else you would like to say to the audience about how to, when it goes wrong, and how to fix your broken funnels, or if anything I've missed?
So I mentioned your funnels basically are always broken, particularly when you start. Fundamentally, you want to see, I like using paid ads because it lets you steer very quickly and change things up. If you're running a paid ad campaign, you want to see 1.5 to 2.5% click-through rate on the ads in the beginning because you're measuring how much interest my audience has. If you've got 0.2%, your message is bad, your audience is bad, something's not working. Don't build there. You want to keep testing. Once you've found a click-through rate that looks good, your landing page needs to have an action rate, whether it's watch a demo, book a call, try the product, whatever it is, 5%, 7%, 9%, somewhere in there. If you're not there, you're bringing traffic and they don't care. Fix that. Then once you've got the ads are working, the landing page is working in product, it's a truism. Only 10% of the people who book a sales call or try the product will actually show up on time, be prepared, care, use the product, whatever it is. You want to bring it up to more like 20%. If you can make that 20%, then you can model out what did I pay for my traffic, how many converted, how many activated. There's my whole business. That right there, just nailing all of that, 3 different clients of mine last year raised a combined $33 million by being able to prove to their investors this works and it's scalable. Focus on that as soon as you can, even if you want to, before you have product. I launch things all the time with a landing page and a pop-up that says, hey, give me your email address. Yeah. And if you can't make demand happen there, don't build the rest of your product. If you have built a product, get your funnel built out this much, see what it costs, and then bring back to the pricing question. If I can reliably bring in people for $10 per marketing qualified lead, MQL, they've activated in product, I better be able to get 10% of them to buy. If that's the case, then I can just comfortably say, let me give a year. Let's not say 7 years. That's crazy. Let me get a year for payback period. If I'm not charging $10 a month, I'm going to be in trouble. If I can charge $100 a month, I'm in the money, dude. Let's go. One of my students I was working with a couple of months ago built and ran an ad funnel based off of what I teach. And he was paying $37 to sell a $1,000 boot camp. And he's like, these numbers are better than you'd said they'd be, Trevor. What do I do? And I said, spend all your money is what you do. You have 3,000% ROAS. Put every penny you've got into this until it stops working, right? Yeah. Make your ad campaign work, particularly if you've got money in the bottom of the funnel, and then go crazy with it. Cost to acquire will go up over time. Make money now, show an investor you've got something, and then go.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. And great talking to you, Trevor. I would
you,
like
Sandeep.
you to come over again someday. And thank you
Sure
very
thing.
much for your time. Bye.
Take care.
Take care.